Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the continuation of the House of Lecter. Are we calling it the House of Lecter or like
I'm for it. House of that particular character.
Yeah, I think so.
Room of Lecter?
Wing of Lecter?
Wing of Lecter. I like that. That sounds actually like food, too. I'll have some wing of Lecter. That works.
That sounds like something Lecter would want. A little bit of wing.
I can't remember what we did for Silence of the Lambs, so I'll have to change it on the website. But we are here, and you guys are here listening to Houselights, our continuation in analyzing directors' content and focusing on the direction and the person behind the camera and in the director's chair. And we are talking about Red Dragon, which is Hannibal Lecter's third appearance as Anthony Hopkins, but yet fourth appearance on film. And yes, that's a very important distinction, because next week we're going to be talking about Manhunter, which is based on the same book as Red Dragon is. And so if you're listening to this one, we really hope you listen to next week too, because it's going to be a really great comparison and contrast. And that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at the character of Hannibal Lecter and seeing how different directors do it. And so we started with Demi, then we went to Ridley Scott, and now we're on Brett Ratner. And I know what some of you are saying. Why are we talking about Brett Ratner? Why is he gracing the Houselights stage? Well, because he directed Hannibal Lecter. That's the only reason. He found a way in.
Well, he studied up on Francis Dollarhide, and he figured out how to cut the back door, the sliding glass door on the Houselights broadcast, and just snuck in that way. And now we've all woken up and went, "Oh my God, Brett Ratner!"
He watched our home videos and then found his way in.
Yes.
So we obviously know that Ratner is Ratner. And so we're going to be talking about how the character is handled. And that's what we're going to be focusing on as we're recording. But with me I'm your co-host, Tristan Riddell. And with me as always is the incredibly hungry and sumptuous John Mills.
Yes. But you know what? No fava beans and no Chianti. I mean, it's like, I feel like I've gone fast food with this. Like, I really feel like my options here in this film really well prepared, but where's my classy meal, man? I'm waiting for it. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find it. I don't know.
And with myself and John, as he always is the maybe stayed out in the sun too long because his hair's a little too light and sweating through the pits. Darren, Dr. Sci-Fi Moser.
It's a 2002, frosted tips are the thing, and we didn't go full on, but
could have worked on your eyebrows a little bit better. I'm just going to throw that out there.
And that was one of the interesting things is, I mean, this movie came out the next year after Hannibal. Like, it was a season of Hannibal for sure.
It had to have. There's no way that they launched this after Hannibal made money. Like, they had to have done it in tandem, at least in part. Yeah. Like, there's no way that you can get a movie like to
that's really fast
and like go through pre-production and production and post and theatrical distribution a year. It's not possible, at least not with a movie this scale. So there had to be like, I really need to do a little bit more research on how that was greenlit and why it was greenlit. Because you'd think after the success that was Hannibal, like, because that movie made money, even though we raked it over the coals last week, it still was very profitable.
Now, I will say one thing on the timeline. So Hannibal was February of 2001 and Red Dragon was October of 2002. So you almost gain a half a year because it's beginning and end of two different years. So I was curious if that was the case.
And this is so effects light that, like, it's so practical, but there's no CG stuff going on. There's no, you're not cutting
you still
off
have
the
the
top
set
right
from the other time. You just use it.
But
No.
you legit you're not like using blue screen and CG technology to pop off Ray Liotta's skull or anything like that. So it's
You know what? You're
a
right.
more
Maybe I
intimate
need
film.
to. Maybe I need to walk back my words. Maybe because you're right, John. This is a very what's the word I'm looking for? Utilitarian movie. This is a very foundational
straightforward.
movie. Like it's a straightforward, classical filmmaking. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing too showy in terms of cinematography tricks or whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that it's also, I mean, we'll get to like final reactions and everything, but I'll be interested to get both of you, like your views on whether that kind of shows, because I think that especially given that, Tally, we talked about Silence of the Lambs, and basically he delivers the script and Demi looks at it and says, this is it. We're making this movie. And then they have all of those drafts of Hannibal that just get tortured into existence. And so they bring back Tally here, and it's fascinating to me because obviously the guy can work fast. I mean, it's a year and a half, but it has to have been while they were working in, production on Hannibal. They saw what was coming in and they went, Hopkins isn't getting any younger. This is our shot. We got to get this done now. Sort of thing.
I think you have some merit there. I think like in order to kind of massage the timeline a little bit, I think De Laurentiis had to have really liked what he saw on the set of Hamilton. Wow. Hamilton. I don't know.
Very different movie. Music's a little bit different too. A little bit different.
On the set of Hannibal. And like probably got the ball rolling saying like, let's figure out a way to make this happen. Now I'm so glad that you brought up Tally, who wrote the original screenplay for Silence of the Lambs. He was the reason why Hopkins, Norton, Fiennes, and Hoffman all agreed to do it because they initially all turned it down. Mm-hmm. Where they said, you know what, we're not interested in doing this sequel, prequel, whatever you want to call it, in the series. But then they're like, oh, but we're going to get Ted Tally. They're like, okay, we'll do it. Because I think so many people recognize the gravitas that Silence of the Lambs has and had.
Well, and you're basing it off of a book that had already been a movie, like it's kind of an established story. And I just looked up both of these, Hannibal and Red Dragon, were Universal Pictures. So you're not changing production company. I mean, you're changing directors, but you're really just taking the ball and continuing on.
But see, that in and of itself is interesting to me. I'm pretty sure I know what Ridley Scott said if they went, hey, do you want to direct the prequel? It probably involved more cursing than we use on this show. But I can also, I mean, in my head, they have to have offered it to him first, right? They have to have said, hey, do you want to do this first? And he said no. Or do you think that they just didn't even bother offering it? And they just said, who can we get who can work fast?
If we go through the timeline in our heads, it might not have been possible because if he's in production and post, he's not able to do pre-production.
That's true.
He's no John Hughes.
Yeah, I'm guessing Scott was just like, why would I do back-to-back Hannibal? Like that is so not his style to not move on to another type of project. So even if they did offer it to him, I am not surprised at all that he turned it down.
Yeah, that's a fair point, but it still seems an odd choice to go for Ratner. Why would you go? Look. Ratner.
Do you know who they originally went to?
No, I don't.
You will never guess this in a million years.
Hold on. Let's have fun.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah. See, I like that guess. That okay, hold on. I want to go
who does
crazy
Mel
here.
Play? Because he's got to be in the movie.
I got it. Oh, who does Mel play? Oh, he casts himself as I would say Jack Crawford. He would be Jack Crawford.
Say, I think you need a smaller role. I would say Anthony Held's character, like he would be Chilton.
No, you know what? I'll say he's Freddie Lowndes. I'll say he casts himself as Freddie Lowndes because Lowndes gives you an opportunity to be a little zany because you're a tabloid reporter. I think. That's
the answer.
That's who he is. You're right. But, doing the Lord's work here on Houselights.
We're creating alternate timelines. Ask Star Trek how that works. I will say that they went for, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to dream big here. Christopher Nolan.
No. I'm just going to drop it. Michael Bay.
Wow. Okay. Okay. He wasn't transforming yet. Gosh,
I think that's the longest stretch of stunned silence from me.
That's
not
enough
recorded.
Not enough explosions. I mean, there was a house burning down at the end, which is kind of cool,
and the house did explode. So there you go.
Yeah, it did. You're right. It did.
It did have an explosion. So
yeah,
I mean that probably wouldn't have been enough to bring him in. But yeah, that would have been a very, very different movie. And since we're on the since we're talking about casting, and since we're kind of disjointed today, we're not doing our regular format, which is fine by me. There was a lot of people who were considered for Will Graham, and the three people that I keep seeing pop up. And again, whenever we report on this, we have no idea if it's true. I mean, like, this could have been people considered. It doesn't mean that they were actually offered.
Right.
But it was Ethan Hawke, Matt Damon, and Jeremy Renner for the role of Will Graham. And I think Ethan Hawke was the only one that I could see doing that role.
I can tell you, having read the book, that Ethan Hawke would have made a phenomenal Will Graham. He would have been absolutely phenomenal as Will Graham, because he definitely has that necessary everyman charisma, which is, I'm not saying that to like diminish him in any way. I'm saying like he's got that Jimmy Stewart sort of thing where it's like he plays these larger than life characters, but you feel like he's you sort of thing. Like you can relate to him. I get that sort of way. And so I think he'd also have likely, because I'm such a fan of him, I'm willing to bet that I would have liked the way he played Graham's nervousness and unease around Lecter better. I think that would have come across a lot more clearly. He would have been less self-assured.
Okay. So I want to talk about that because I think we're going to have a little back and forth on this, because I particularly liked that Ed Norton's Will Graham wasn't shaken by Lecter. I really liked that he went in with confidence, because it was kind of the antithesis of Jodie Foster, because Jodie Foster was green. She was a trainee. She wasn't even a full-fledged agent. But then we have Will, who's seasoned, and there's that season again, Darren.
It's a terrible thing to say to someone.
And actually, so apparently on set, or maybe in rehearsal, I'm not quite sure, Ratner wanted Norton to play it nervous and play it scared. And Norton's like, no. He's a vet. He's a veteran FBI officer. He's faced Hannibal before. No, he wouldn't be scared. And the compromise was, okay, well, Graham would never show that he's scared, but underneath he's incredibly nervous. And that's why we get that shot of him taking off his coat and he has pit stains underneath. And I think that's just a great example of collaboration.
That's showing, not telling, director. Right there.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's just great collaboration between star and director.
I'm not disagreeing about that scene in specific. I'm talking about the lead up to going in. Graham should have his S together, because Graham knows firsthand he doesn't need to be told, if you let Lecter in, he's going to completely disarm you and destroy you.
Right.
He knows that. And so, yes, that is how I agree with that being played that way. No, I'm not going to give any tells to Lecter, but when I go out, I'm breathing heavy. I have to loosen my collar. I'm not with it. Right. But it's the lead up to. He should be more uneasy when Crawford comes up. He should be a little bit more. I love Mary Louise Parker in this. I think she plays a really great Molly, and
thankless role.
Oh, absolutely. I felt he should have been a little bit more. I struggle for the right word, but deferential toward her, a little bit more, like he's acknowledging that her place isn't overprotectiveness. It's legitimate concern of like, Will, this could destroy you. It almost did before.
Yeah.
And he should be in less of a position of strength in that scene. So I'm talking about the lead up to. Graham should be way uneasier. And I would have liked to see more unease.
Maybe like touches at his side all the time, because it's like that's where the scar is, or like little things like that.
So some little tick like that, but also
whenever Hannibal's near, he feels it itching and burning.
Yeah,
almost like
something
Voldemort.
Like that. Something.
No,
like
John,
that.
I think that's really solid. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think that would have made the scenes between him and Hannibal, at least the first one, probably way more impactful. Like you would see that that dichotomy. You would see that, like, the huge difference where it's just like, he's super nervous, maybe a little sweaty, but as soon as he walks into the hallway, as soon as he walks into the hospital, he's just boom, game face. Yeah, turn it on. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Cool. So we kind of agree.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Right.
Well, I just realized that this means that Will Graham is the second of the two survivors of Hannibal Lecter, because in the previous movie they mentioned that wheelchair guy. Why am I blinking?
Gary Oldman's character.
Gary Oldman's character was one of two surviving Hannibal Lecter
victims. Yes.
So this would be the other, because he obviously lives.
Yes.
Did they say one of two in Hannibal?
Yeah.
I thought they said he was the only one. Okay,
they
cool.
They said one of two. That was good attention to detail, because Graham is, Mason Verger is sort of like a retcon in a way.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that too, because you could do whatever.
It's never specifically said, but in the book at least, it's very much like Will Graham basically lucked out in living. He, and like Lecter was undefeated pro champ of the killer world, and Will Graham's the one that got away, sort of thing. And so that's why I think that I think Ratner, this is where I see him falter as a director, is I think he gives, and I know this is probably blasphemous to say at this point, but it's obviously a director giving Hopkins a little bit too much free rein in how he portrays Lecter. Lecter is a little too campy at moments. Lecter should be Lecter should be fixated on Graham and talking to him with no pretense, no false accents, no showy sort of like, I'm better than you sort of attitude that he gets, that's sort of evocative of how he talks to Jodie Foster, trying to pry at her and everything. Lecter in that cage should be staring at Graham, deadpan, very little emotion in his face, like looking at him like a mountain lion, like, this glass is the only thing keeping you alive. I hate the fact that you're here. The fact that you're sitting across from me in this glass, I want to end you. I want to destroy you. And I didn't get enough of that from Lecter.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that
in that scene.
But after seeing how he was portrayed, I know this is a prequel, but after seeing how Hopkins is portrayed in Silence of the Lambs and in Hannibal, I honestly think this was his most reserved portrayal as Hannibal. Because, like, you think about Silence of the Lambs, he has those mocking accents, and like he jumps and does the whole thing, and then in Hannibal, this is the one where he's like, okie dokie, like right before he's about to gut somebody. And in this one, I think he was absolutely reserved and not at all over the top by comparison to the previous two. Like, you may have wanted more. I don't want to assume why you wanted it, either because of Manhunter or the book, because I haven't read or seen either one of those. But as far as Hopkins on-screen portrayal of Lecter goes, this is the most subdued.
I mean, probably my use of the word campy is wrong, but what I'm trying to get at with referencing the mountain lion is that the energy where they're in that little pen where he's walking around with the chain, he's basically like walking around like a dog on a leash sort of thing. That type of energy, that scene's great because he is where I want him to be there. He's not there really in the cell. And I think that, a truly good director gets that out of him. We know Hopkins can do it. And he does slip once or twice into this sort of like mocking tone with Graham. I also think it was a mistake art direction wise, because Hopkins obviously is older. I think Hopkins is, your body changes over time. I think it was a mistake to put him back in the jumpsuit. I don't think he should have been in it. He
lost 20 pounds for the role.
I know. And I'm not knocking how he looks at all. I'm just saying your body changes, whether you're in great shape or not. Your body changes.
When they're trying to
age.
make it look like the next day you run into, Clarice Starling, like that, it's hard to buy that.
Right. And it's one of those things where, as much as I love Dante Spinotti, we were talking before we started recording about what a tremendous cinematographer he is, and I think overall this movie is very pretty to look at and very well shot. Too bright. It is too bright in that cell interaction. I know it's supposed to be to separate it, that it's like, okay, this is daytime sort of thing, but it's just too bright when Will Graham is sitting in there talking to him. I don't think it works as well. But it works against the mood, basically. Well, that's just my take on it.
Now, one thing that we haven't talked about, which is we're 20 minutes in, and we usually talk about this at the opening, and what we start with is when we first saw this film and what we thought. Darren, when did you first see this movie? Is this your first time seeing this movie?
This is my first time seeing this movie. Yeah.
Okay. So you were yesterday years old.
Yeah, today years old. Yeah, and it was interesting, especially having just watched Hannibal, because I'm trying to, because again, Hannibal's not really in this movie a lot. Like, Ralph Fiennes, what's his last name? Dollarhide. He's, obviously the main. Yeah, he's obviously the main character. And yes, I know that's kind of the way that Hannibal movies go, is there's someone they're trying to catch and they go talk to Hannibal and they get some info and all of that. But yeah, I felt like we had even less Hannibal than in Hannibal. Like it's like that character progressively, like minutes of screen time was less and less. Like you could almost cut that out and just have a straight, FBI chasing the Red Dragon movie. I mean, I wouldn't want it to take it that far, but it almost felt like that.
To be fair, I feel like you could do that with Silence of the Lambs.
Yes,
true.
You could.
It's always a balancing act with these movies because they are about making the title character a secondary role.
Now, I can't speak for minutes, but the number of scenes that Hannibal has in Red Dragon is exactly the same as it was in Silence of the Lambs 4, which I find very interesting. But I think Silence of the Lambs definitely takes the cake because of the scenes where he's at the second location, where he's
right
inside that other building. I mean, that was an especially long scene. So I think you're right. I think he definitely gets less screen time in this one than he does in Silence of the Lambs.
But I think to Darren's point, what is, I almost wonder if what it is that Hopkins' presence is so, basically you're going to go see this movie for Hannibal.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to go see this for Dollarhide's story, which is an incredibly interesting and sad story. And I think that Ray Fiennes does a fine job with the role. I do. And I think that stuff is interesting. But I do think that, again, I think what it is Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins takes you by surprise. And the structure of it still works and it still supports everything and it feeds together. I think with this, I think it's inescapable to come into this and be watching it for Anthony Hopkins. And so you're paying more attention to him than you are to the killer, because it's unfair that Dollarhide doesn't get the same. I think that Dollarhide deserves a little bit earlier exposure. And I think that's something that, we'll get to Manhunter, but Manhunter at least.
That's true. It does take a while before we actually see him. It's all after the fact and breaking down the scene. And we're spending that time with Edward Norton and learning about him as a character.
Even if we just had something where we introduce him at the photo processing earlier, and we're sort of like, well, wait, why are we? And we have some sort of little tell, and we're like, oh, okay, we're going to come back to this, put a pin in this. And then when we do go back to him, we go, oh, that's why we saw that guy earlier. I think that could have addressed some of it.
I mean, maybe, but it's that kind of a movie where as soon as you see a slightly sketchy character, it's like it's telegraphed all over the wall. Like I can't imagine if he had been introduced sooner, being like, I wonder who this guy is going to end up being. Like it's obviously,
like, why are we seeing the cook in Red October? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I concede that point, but I'm saying like lean into it.
Yeah,
and go ahead and have him.
It's
show
not like
up
a
earlier.
mystery, but yet you're like, no, the movie is introducing him here,
right?
Like we are showing him here.
Well, and every time we see him, there's that tension because it's like, we're seeing him interact with just everyday people, and we're like, but this guy's a monster, and it's like, what's it? And we're still in the what is his pattern? What is he going after? What makes him want to strike? So anyone who crosses paths, we're like, is that he's gonna go after? Is that the person he's gonna go? And it's which, I mean, that's the great part of the movie, is that you don't know.
I agree that it would have been interesting to see him a little bit sooner, but at the same time, I feel like, in all fairness, this is probably the most fleshed out bad guy that we've seen so far.
Yes,
in terms of motivations and time spent in his own psyche, in his own house. Because like if you look at Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, we just see him periodically, in there like doing some crazy things or looking after the girl in the well, or whatever you want to call that thing. And then we have Hannibal, who's just Hannibal. He's just like, yep, I'm the cannibal, I'm crazy. And in this one, we actually get a little bit more backstory and even commentary on how tragic his backstory is. And so I feel like it would have been nice to see more of him, but at the same time, we've seen the most of him as opposed to any other antagonist in previous films.
Sure. And, not to tip the hand, but you get less of that backstory even in Manhunter, where the focus is completely, it's going to be really interesting to talk about that one after this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
I wanted to ask, now I sat down and, it's been a while since I've watched it. I saw it in the movie theater with my brother because, big fans, Criminology, I already went through that, all that stuff. And so, and we love Red Dragon. Of the books, because Hannibal's the last book. I never read Hannibal Rising. I never will. Whatever. It's a piece of trash. Whatever. I'm not even going to bother. But of the three original books, like Red Dragon is our favorite. Clear favorite. Like we loved... I think I've told this story before. After I read Red Dragon for the first time, I barely slept for a week afterward. I jumped at every sound in my apartment. I double checked door locks. I kept looking for ways that I was like, oh, somebody's going to get in. Somebody's going to kill me, because Harris does a tremendous job of setting up Dollarhide and how he works. And it's so unnerving. So we were first in line for the movie, but this is my first time seeing it in a while. And I, sat down and everything starts up, and, the first like real music cue of the movie starts up, and I was like, gee, I wonder who did it's Elfman. Did you guys pick up on the Elfman immediately, or?
Oh, I didn't.
Immediately.
Yeah. I thought it was inescapable. And so I got to ask the question. I mean, I'll make it a statement. I'm not sure that Elfman was the right composer for this. I think that, especially when you compare it with what they did in Silence of the Lambs, it's not creepy enough, man. It's not there for me.
This is probably my favorite score of the three so far.
Blasphemy.
And okay, here's the thing.
It's got some good jump scares.
It has some really great jump scares, and I find it creepy because I think Elfman is inherently creepy, not just because of the content that he's done with Burton, but just I feel like his stings.
He's just a creepy guy.
He's just a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Like if you've seen his house, oh my God, like I've seen a tour of it inside of his house. He's a creepy individual. And I think that shines through his music, but I never really dug Silence of the Lambs that much. The music, I thought it was fine. Hannibal, it was so innocuous that you couldn't even form an opinion. But with this one, I feel like it had bravado. It was in your face a few times. Like it was big enough to be noticed and creepy enough to help with those scares. And this is coming from, like, I like Elfman, but this is coming from a guy who, when I first saw Justice League, the theatrical cut, I was so distraught over how horrible Elfman's score was that I advocated that he be spanked because of his role in bastardizing the music of that movie, not publicly, privately, just so he'd learn a lesson. And so I'm not saying that Elfman is beyond reproach, but I absolutely loved this score.
I didn't hate it, but I thought it had too much bombast to it at points.
So too much bombast. So we agree that there's bombast.
Yes,
but you think it's too much. Okay,
I do. I think that the score should have been a little more. I don't know, Halloween, a little more just nuanced, than what we got. And again, it's not a bad score. I wasn't like, oh, this music sucks. It's not like watching a movie where you're like, who paid this schlub? Why is this on here? It's more of a, lukewarm reaction.
I get that. I think that it definitely comes down to taste, because for me, I really enjoy when I notice the scores. See, with editing, I love it when I don't notice the editing. Like if I don't have a gripe, or if I'm not thinking about the editing, you did a great job. But if I'm not thinking about the music, or I don't even notice the music, then what's the point? And then just do an empty track. But I really enjoy it when I'm just like, damn, that's a good score. It made itself known. But that's just me.
I just of the three scores we've gotten, Howard Shore wins it for me so far. So,
where do you land, Aaron?
Yeah, I liked the score. I don't know if I was paying attention, but I didn't notice that it was Danny Elfman until you just said something. But maybe it wasn't hitting enough of his normal motifs that he, like his almost caricature kind of motifs he usually has, where it's really obvious that it's Elfman. There was no like la 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 la, some stuff like that. Yeah. But no, I mean, there were definitely parts of the movie where I was like, reaching up to my headphone and be like, turning the sound down because something scary's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears here a little bit. We've talked about Ed Norton in his interaction with Hannibal, but we haven't really talked about Norton's portrayal. What did you guys think? I am super biased because Ed Norton was my favorite actor, top actor, for a very long time. And I would watch anything with him in it. I always think he gives an A+ performance. And I really liked him in this, but I really want to know what you guys think. Like, Darren, what did you think he brought to the table? Because he's not, granted, we saw two different actresses portray one character, and obviously he's not a character we've seen before. But what do you think he brought to the franchise so far? Do you think he brought something unique? Was he bland? Was he not? Was he too much? What do you think?
I really liked his portrayal. It was interesting. It made me think of, when we talked about Julianne Moore last week and her reportrayal of a similar character, or of Starling again. And we talked about what if this had been a new character and a new direction. I felt like that's what we got with this. I mean, obviously it's a new character, but I liked he's not washed out, but he's done. He's out. He's seen enough blood and death and terrible human beings, but he has this connection, it's like pull him back in to, and I like that angle. It was a really interesting take on the character versus usually we always see the character that's like right before the burnout. Like they're like, oh, okay, I'll do one more, but they're still in it. And this was like, he's like, I'm retired. I don't want to come back. All the evidence is right there. There's no special sauce with me. And, they're like, no, it's you, know what to look for. And you've read the script, so you know where it's going. But you have a lot of great things. And yeah, Edward Norton was that name. But I felt the best compliment I could give is I didn't see Edward Norton when I was watching this. I saw this character. I was never distracted by, well, that's just Edward Norton playing an FBI agent. It's like, no, it was this interesting character, and he had a wife and family, and, how's he going to cope about this? And so I really liked his portrayal.
John, what about you?
I think it works. I didn't think it was phenomenal. I didn't think it was, it was good. It was adequate. I thought there were scenes where Norton brought something good, like really positive. I liked the way he played off of Hopkins, especially in that first intro scene. I really believed that scene was, I believed it was happening. I thought the energy they had was very good. I liked the way that he played the ending. I bought him as, sort of that, intelligent enough, playing the scene right with Dollarhide yelling at his son for wetting his pants, knowing that it was going to flip Dollarhide out. I buy that stuff, but there were certain moments that didn't quite work, where I didn't believe him as, for instance, when he grabs Lowndes, when he grabs Philip Seymour Hoffman and throws him up and is mad at him. I didn't buy it. I looked at it, I was like, this is a guy that doesn't know how to throw somebody around.
You are 100% right. That scene always rang false to me. Yeah. Always. They should have done a second take on that one.
Yeah. And I think that I'll be honest with you. I think that they were, I think he's outshined by Hoffman when Hoffman's on screen with him, which is not hard for Hoffman to do, because I think Hoffman is good in this role, very good as Lowndes. But he's no Stephen Lang,
because Hoffman's so understated in the scenes that he's in with Norton.
Yeah, but I think that Hoffman.
But he slips into that role. You see just that role.
I totally buy that Freddie Lowndes is a real guy in this, and so it's like I think what Hoffman's performance winds up doing at moments is underscoring that Norton is acting, if that makes sense. He's acting. And,
I think, I get it. I think I love Norton and I love what he brings to the role, but is this something that he completely made his own and I could never see anybody else do? No, not at all. Not at all. I think obviously somebody else has done it, because Manhunter exists, and also at the top of the show we talked about Ethan Hawke doing it. So this is one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, no, he did a good job, but we could see somebody else doing it. But yeah, I hate how right you are about him throwing him up against the car. It just doesn't work. It just you needed to do a second take on that. But speaking of Hoffman, that scene with Ralph Fiennes is borderline iconic. It is like literally glued to the chair, and he doesn't want to see his face. You believe that Hoffman is freaked out. You believe that there is a person in that chair who knows he's not going to survive, and that he's trying his hardest to agree with whatever Dollarhide is saying in order to get him out. And holy crap, Ralph Fiennes' Dollarhide threw himself into it 100%. 8 hours to get that tattoo on his body. 8 hours to get that tattoo. And it just the voice work, the manipulation of his mouth, the pure dedication. I cannot speak higher of Ralph Fiennes in this.
You know what? One of the best scenes, and I think it's one that's easy to overlook, but actually one of the best scenes is when he takes the early edition of the Tatler and is walking off, and the guy's like, hey, and he turns around, he looks at him and goes, what? You're going to do what? And it's not showy, but he definitely has the delivery and the body, the physical presence to know, he clearly communicates, okay, this is what you would like to do. And the guy knows enough to be like, no, we're good. I'm out. That's fine.
It's not bravado. It's not alpha male BS. He's not throwing his hands in the air. He's not getting in his face. He's just turning around saying, what? He embodies that danger. And I think
lack of fear.
Yeah.
That's what freaks people out. Lack of fear.
Right. I think he gained something 15 pounds of muscle for this role.
He worked out 90 minutes a day or something like that, lifting weights. Yeah, it's dedication, man.
No CGI here. It's
like with or without a pantyhose on his head. I have no idea if that's how method he is.
Well, I mean, he also got the prosthetic to make it look like he had a cleft, and
that's right.
That's tough too. Like that affects how you speak. You have to learn how to speak with makeup on not just on your face, but very much affecting your mouth in specific. So that's a challenge.
One thing that I kind of wish was done a little bit better, and I don't know how you could have done this, or if they just spent more time on it, or maybe even just one more scene. But Emily Watson, I really like Emily Watson. I think she's a very underrated actress. She does a lot of great work. And if you don't know the name, you definitely know her work. You definitely know her face. And she played Reba McClane, who was a love interest of Dollarhide. And everyone should check out Chernobyl just for her, honestly. But one thing that I didn't really think was sold in the picture was her attraction to Dollarhide. It makes you wonder why. Like, does she just like the strong silent type? Is that it? Because that's all he's really given. Now, granted, he does the tiger thing, which I think really, pushes it over the edge. Because that's a huge gesture. That's a huge loving gesture. And that's really, 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 really cool. But I feel like I needed a little bit more. I feel like Dollarhide needed to give us a little bit more, to give Reba a little bit more reason to have her fall for him, because it just felt a little rushed, a little out of left field.
I mean, they make it sound like he's the office hottie that everyone's kind of like not sure about, but
right?
I felt like they laid a foundation, but I felt like we didn't know enough about her. And the way she, especially since the first time we see her, she's, rebuffing the advances of another one of her coworkers. So it's kind of like, I feel like she doesn't want to go out with anybody, but then all of a sudden she's all on board with him. So I can see where you're going. I didn't feel like it was not enough for me. Because again, all those scenes are it's all tension. It's all like, because again, we're still finding out the connection. So we're like, is it, is she have what he wants when he's trying to kill or things like that? And I'm actually very surprised she survived this movie, because it could very easily have not.
Well, I think that I do buy their relationship, quote unquote, but I do agree it needed another scene, maybe.
One more scene, I think.
But I think it's enough, like when they go in and they're having pie, and it's very much about seeing how Dollarhide is thrown off, because he's seeing genuine human affection and it's being offered to him. And so maybe it's just that Ratner doesn't give her enough attention as opposed to the script, because very much we get that Dollarhide is uncomfortable because he doesn't know how to react. He's unclear. Yeah. He's like, why is a person behaving like this? This is bizarre to me. And when you think about it, she's the first woman that he isn't distantly objectifying. He's suddenly understanding that women aren't monster. Like this isn't grandma. And so there's nothing to work out against her. And it's like, it's one of those things where you can't help but wonder, he obviously he can't do what he does if he actually knows the person. Like, that's why the video processing, he can keep them at a distance and he never knows them. And that's sort of the thing, is like with a killer, they have to be able to completely dehumanize the other person. And so he can't dehumanize her. And that's what throws him sort of into a tizzy. And I actually think one of the great, and this is in the book, right? Where it throws everything aside. And I think it's a great scene where he's sitting there saying, not her, just let me have her. Why do you have to have? There was actually an alternate version of that scene where you heard the dragon talking to him.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It doesn't play as well you think as your head makes you think it does.
No,
But it's not
I
bad.
wouldn't think it would.
No, I think they made the right choice. Like this is like not hearing it is I think it throws you a little bit more into the psyche of Dollarhide not hearing it, because you're just like, oh, okay, this, I don't want to say sympathy is the wrong word, but understanding. Like I like that he was pleading to an individual that we didn't hear, that we didn't see, that we knew that only he saw and heard. And I really enjoy that scene because he tries so hard to escape it that he puts a shotgun in his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. Like that kind of dynamic that he has with the dragon. And also, I just want to say that pecan pie looked like one of the best pecan pies I've ever seen.
You know what? And I have a weakness for pecan pie. And yes, it made me hungry watching that scene. I was like, come on. I just, yeah.
Well, and I loved her character because it made sense. Like it actually was an integral part of the plot. It wasn't just, and this character's blind, let's see how that goes. It's like, no, yes. And the twist got me. Like when he shoots himself and then she feels his face, I'm like, oh, I guess he's dead now. And I didn't think too deep into it, which would have told me like that kind of seems like a weird way for the main bad guy to just die.
It's like, we still got 20 minutes left.
Well, I wasn't looking at the counter yet, and then I was like, okay, we're doing good. And then the more I thought about it, especially once I start to realize it, I'm like, oh, we didn't actually see him die. And again, he could have, then you realize he planned it to that. Of course, she's the perfect witness because she'll see exactly what he wants her to see. And then you're like, oh no, he's still alive.
And we see her use his bathroom with the busted mirror and the dentures that, like it plays into how this would have worked. It only would have worked if she didn't have sight. And also I love that we had the callback to the grandfather clock, that didn't come out of nowhere, that we actually, she established that she understood where the door was. Yeah. Absolutely. I think her character was handled very well, but just, I just, as I said before, there was one more scene between them so that we could get a little bit more understanding. Now, we've talked about Lecter, we've talked about Graham, we've talked about Dollarhide. How did you guys feel about going from Scott Glenn to Harvey Keitel as Jack Crawford? Was it a whiplash for you? Did you accept it? Did you even know that was really Crawford, or did you just accept it as somebody else?
I knew it had to be accepted as Crawford, but as accomplished as Keitel is, there are some roles he's not particularly suited for. I go back to Ridley Scott's The Duelists. He wasn't particularly suited for that role, although he played it. It just didn't click for me. I honestly, I think it's just that Scott Glenn did such a great job of what I picture an FBI, like a guy who rises through the ranks of the FBI must be, like that.
Yeah.
Forgive me for putting it this way, but like pull up the butt, like super tight haircut, like military precision type of guy. And Keitel I can buy as a cop, a detective, a police chief.
Yeah.
But I have a different vision in my head of
the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, maybe that's unfair. But I can see him as a law enforcement figure, but I don't see him as Jack Crawford. And I do think that has to do with the previous. I think that the previous performance was so good. Like, I just don't see Crawford here.
That's the thing, is that like I didn't even truly understand, even after watching this movie multiple times, like seeing it when it came out, seeing it, like watching it just for pleasure, and then seeing it for this podcast, I never really connected that Harvey Keitel was Scott Glenn's character until I looked it up, and I was just like, oh, right, Crawford, Jack Crawford, it's the same character. It just never really clicked with me. Call me stupid, I don't care. But yeah, he played it so differently that they should have given him a different name.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're going to get another Jack Crawford next week. And it's going to be interesting because
this is the first Jack Crawford, but not the first to us.
That's true.
But so it's going to be interesting as well because it's another different Jack Crawford, but in a very strange way. He's closer to Keitel, but more believable to me as an FBI guy, which is going to be weird. It's going to seem weird. But, I'll tip my hand on that one, a little bit early. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, I think we are at the point where we could talk about how many dentures we're giving this film. And I would love to hear from Darren first. Darren, this is your first time viewing it. You're on a roll, seeing Silence of the Lambs, then Hannibal, then Red Dragon. What are you thinking? Where does this fall in your ranking of the three? And what star rating are you giving it?
I'm also going to give it a 3. Apparently, I'm giving all, Silence of the Lambs was a 5, but I'm going to give it a 3 for different reasons than I gave Hannibal a 3. Is Hannibal, I remember, we kind of ripped into Hannibal. We were tearing that apart. But this one, I really like the performances. I think Edward Norton, all the leads are great. And I wouldn't even say it's a bad thing, but my only nitpick is just it feels like each movie is progressively kind of moving away from Hannibal. Like you had that secret lightning in a bottle in the first film, the right proportion, the right way to introduce the character and the suspense and all of that. And he has multiple locations and all of that. And this one, it's the prequel. He's in the cell the whole time. I mean, again, I know we had the opening moments, which also kind of threw me because I'm like, is this going to be 48 hours earlier? Because that's what I thought for a moment. Because he gets stabbed, and I'm like, are you both dead? Because I'm pretty sure you both are about to die. But this is a prequel, right? I'm checking my watch, and it's a prequel.
And then Norton gets shot like 4 times again at the end of the movie.
Norton doesn't die, apparently. Yeah, I was expecting the threw on a vest at the last second or something, but sheesh. But no, I'm giving it a solid 3. Enjoyable movie. Yeah, really, really well acted. I'll probably watch this again just to re-dive into the characters and the tension. Not that there were any real surprises, besides we were all not surprised that the book survived in the safe because it was very clearly established it's in the safe. So we knew the fire wasn't going to destroy that. But it was very good. It's a very good movie.
All right, John, I am aching to know how many amuse-bouche are you giving this?
Well, I will give it. Now, I'm going to say, we touched on Ratner a little bit. I think with the performances and the script that we're given here, that a different director could have made this a 5-star film. I do. I think that there are decisions made. I think that this is somebody who is obviously much more comfortable making blockbuster pictures and not intimate pieces. And I think that this script called for a Jonathan Demme type touch to it.
So you're saying Michael Bay should have been the obvious choice for an intimate picture.
100%. Hey, after what he did with Pain and Gain, I would have given him this. All that said, I do enjoy the performances a lot. I think that Fiennes is criminally overlooked for what he pulls off in this movie. I think that he is fantastic, just absolutely wonderful. And I do enjoy getting to see an adaptation. Look, we can all dance around it as much as we want to. We all love seeing adaptations that are a little bit truer to the book, even if we loved the previous adaptation. I mean, it's kind of weird to get 2 adaptations, but like one that's closer to the book, it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's just more comfy. sort of thing. So I wound up giving this a 3.5. So Brett Ratner, of all people, beats Ridley Scott. This is never going to happen again in history, folks. I want to make that very clear.
Not ever again.
No,
well,
not going to happen.
You gave it way more than I expected you to, because you and I have talked about this film a couple of times during the course of our friendship, and I thought you just detested this film. So for you to give it a 3.5, I think that's pretty solid. That's a solid rating. For me, like I've talked about, I've broadcasted my feelings during the course of this podcast, where you can tell that I've definitely tried to say, like, to be fair, in defense, like things like that, because I genuinely love this movie. Like I really, really like this movie. I think it's great. I think it's a great thriller piece. I think it's a great pseudo horror piece. I think it's a great psychological thriller. Even if it didn't have any connection to Lecter, I think this is a solid film. I really like this story. I really like Graham. I really like Dollarhide. Well, you know what I mean by that. Like I enjoy the character of Dollarhide, and I think there's so many great pieces in it. Like, do I think anybody on this podcast was straight up wrong or crazy with their beliefs? No, not at all. I think a lot of the things that we've cited as wrong are absolutely wrong and could have been done better. But for me, my enjoyment of this, because of it's just such a solid story. And I mean, because like of what you talked about, John, with it being such a great book, I mean, it lends itself to be a great story. And if you have somebody with the talent of Tally behind it, then you're going to get a great, without really screwing it up, you're going to get a great movie. And speaking of Tally, he said that if he knew that Faison was going to be Barney again, he would have added way more Barney scenes, which I think is a travesty. I wish somebody told him that so that we could have gotten more Barney scenes. But I'm giving this a 4 stars. I really like this movie. This is one that I watch. I don't want to say regularly, but like this is something that's in the rotation where I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to throw in Red Dragon. I'm going to watch this probably more than Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is a 5-star picture, but it's not something that you casually watch. Yes. Red Dragon, I feel like you can just pop in and say like, yeah, that was a good film. But Silence of the Lambs, you got to be a little ready to watch that one.
I agree. I think that's a completely fair assessment. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, miles better than Hannibal. Didn't make as much money, but miles better. Like I described this when I tried to get people to watch it. I said, this is an apology for Hannibal.
But see, here's the interesting thing. And I know people will bristle at the way I put this. Okay. So hate me later, whatever. But I think in later years, I could call it sort of the Last Jedi effect, where the movie made plenty of money, but then created such displeasure among, the core audience or what have you, that sort of the follow-up film pays for the sins of the previous one. So I almost wonder if Red Dragon had come out first, if they said, hey, we're going to tell you how we got to Silence of the Lambs. You kids like prequels. They've come out before. I think this might do better.
I think it would have.
That's interesting. I think you're right. I think that's a solid point. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been so much fun talking about Red Dragon. I've been so excited to talk about this when we decided to do the wing of Lecter. And please tune in next week, as we talked about at the top of the show, where we're going to be doing Michael Mann's Manhunter. Now, this is a movie that John has been trying to get me to watch for years. And this is the original adaptation of the book Red Dragon. So again, if you listen to this, please listen to next week, because it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, because we're going to get into some real comparisons, some contrasts, and we're going to see how 80s Manhunter actually is.
Yeah,
1986.
I'm going to throw this flag right here. Super 80s. Okay.
Yeah, I watched the trailer.
Super 80s.
I watched the trailer.
Are you
last
saying
night.
like 80s are like, or like
I'm
just
saying
80s?
Is
everybody driving a DeLorean? Like, what am I expecting here?
It's an adaptation of Red Dragon from the guy who brought you Miami Vice.
So
there you go. Yeah. Very 80s.
So everyone, please tune in next week. And thank you, as always, for listening to Houselights and walking through the very terrifying wing of Lecter.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.